Dr. Jazz.
Michael, I wanted to
Dr.
ask you, start this talk with the last one I heard by you, Precipice, and it's such a beautiful record.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh, thank you.
how did you connect with Christian House, and what's the story behind that album, actually?
Well, you know, I live near Asheville, North Carolina now.
Ah, okay.
I've been here for 12, 13 years. And Christian moved here about 6 years ago. So
Mm.
so we met and we like each other. We've been doing some things. So when I had a chance to record this new music, I first off wanted to see if he could do it, and he could. So that was really great.
Yeah.
And then we used a couple of other guys from here. Brian McConnell is a great bassist. He used to live
Yeah.
in San Francisco, and he did a lot of playing with Bobby Hutcherson and all those guys out there. But he moved here about 6 years also. And then the drummer Rick Dilling, he's been here a long time, 30 years.
Yeah. How do you usually prepare for a project like that? I mean, you know, I have you on so many records, and you've been so prolific as a band leader or co-band leader, and as a composer. How do you compose usually? Like, what's your story? Let's say for this album.
Well, I'm always composing.
Mm.
I'm always composing, sometimes more than others. You know, when I was growing up as a jazz musician in New York in the 80s, I was always composing. And what happens is I would have a hard time trying to decide if I should practice the piano or if I should compose. You know, it's like, and finally I realized, well, whatever is happening is okay. You know, like I'm probably not going to be the greatest pianist in the world, and maybe not the greatest composer, but you know, I'll do the best I can in both, you know, worlds. And I was always writing for bands that existed, so that was kind of like the good thing was that I was able to always to have a band, and then I could write for it. You know, the first really serious band was the Mosaic Sextet, which
Yeah,
was
I want to go there. Yeah.
a long time ago. But you know, there's always been these bands, these projects, and so you know that's how I learned how to write, just by hearing the music. And then
Yeah.
so for the past, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, I've been writing music, but I don't really have a band anymore.
Yeah.
And COVID really changed everything, because I was supposed to go on tour in Europe the fall, right after COVID, with Conference Call, which was
Okay.
a band with Joe and Gebhard Ullman
Yeah.
and George Schuller, but I didn't want to get on a plane. I wasn't comfortable.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't go. So they did that tour. They got another piano player in Europe, and they did the tour, and then afterwards, they actually recorded that. They recorded during the tour, and so I told them, I says, you know, I don't mind that you record it, but don't release the project as conference call,
Sure.
because conference call was me and Gebhardt. That was the first thing, and then it was Joe, and then it was different drummers. So anyway, so that was sort of kind of like a drag, and then I had another tour that was supposed to start right when COVID started. There was an American tour, and it was with a local band here with the same drummer, Rick Dilling, and some other guys, and so that got canceled also. I mean, that was like supposed to happen like the next week, right? And so, like, you know, first it was like, well, maybe it's canceled, you know, maybe. And then all of a sudden, not only was it canceled, but like everything was canceled for 2 years, you know. So that band was playing my original music, just different music I've written. So, but I had been writing since COVID, and so I wanted to record the music, and I knew that these guys could do it with not a lot of rehearsal, because people don't seem to want to rehearse anymore.
True, actually, yeah.
I mean, I don't know. And when I was in Brooklyn for 20 years, that's all we did is rehearse. You know, we didn't get paid, we just rehearsed.
Sure.
Well, I was younger, you know, but still, that was the aesthetic was, wow, you got some new music? Well, let's rehearse.
Yeah.
That's awesome, you know. And I had all kinds of bands, you know. I mean, I had a big band in New York.
Really? I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, I had a band. It was called the Brooklyn Jazz Composers Orchestra.
Wow.
And it came out of the BMI workshop. So I was a student in the workshop, and then a friend of mine, Jeff Rahab, was a student, and we decided to have a band, and we had that band, you know, pretty much from 96 until 2000, which is when I left. Well, I left New York in 2002. So, but that band, that was a great band. And so anyway, I had been writing this music, and so I called Christian first because his schedule is very demanding, and so he could do it. So once I got Christian, then I had been playing with Brian and with Rick, and I knew that they could do it. And I had these pieces are quite complex, some of them.
Yeah.
They're not easy. So, you know, I think we had a rehearsal, but yeah, I think so. But only one, and then we were in the studio.
Oh, wow.
And you know, I mean, I just wanted to hear the music. So the name of the record, which is called Precipice, is about the place that I feel we are on the planet.
Yeah.
I feel like we're standing on the edge, and I feel like I don't feel like it's America. I feel like it's the Earth. The planet is on the edge. Humanity
Yeah, that's for sure.
on the edge. Are we going to survive or not? You know, I mean, and I don't know. You know, I don't have that answer, but I wanted to present the question. and also the problem, because it seems like nobody wants to talk about that.
Mm. Yeah.
I mean, that, they want to talk about Trump, but but he's not the problem. He's one of the symptoms. I mean, here he's a big symptom, but the problem the problem is much larger. I mean, if there's no water, then we can't live.
Yeah.
If there's no air, then we can't breathe. If there are no animals, if the ecology gets so crazy, I mean, if the bees all die,
then it's over.
And it's over. So,
yeah.
But nobody wants to, talk about that. It's like we shouldn't talk about it. So I mean, I'm not making a big statement. I mean, it's just music, but I figure I could, in my little small world, that I could at least say that,
Definitely,
and as far as the music goes, I just feel like my writing is improving. So I'd like to share it. At the moment, I'm writing a lot of new big band charts.
Really? Oh man, beautiful.
Yeah, because I'm playing here in town with a big band called the Asheville Jazz Orchestra, and so I have a chance to hear the music, so so I'm into it. I haven't done it. I haven't written big band music for 20 years, I mean, so it's kind of exciting. I mean, it's because it's a new, because now I'm using the computer, back then there was no computer really. It was there, but it was.
This is easier now,
yeah, but so yes, so I'm enjoying it.
Beautiful. Yeah, like Michael, you mentioned before growing up in New York. How was that like for you? When was the first jazz that you encountered, and where and when was that?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So I was born in New York, and I grew up first 8 years in Queens in the projects. And my father was an immigrant. He was Italian.
Oh, really?
My mother's family came from the Ukraine.
Oh.
I actually played in the Ukraine right before
the war.
Putin, he annexed this one part first on the water. That's where we played.
Okay.
Right where
the Krim.
Is that the Black Sea or something?
Yeah, the Krim Peninsula.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, so I played a concert there, and it was with Oliver Lake and Joe and this band we had called the Generations Quartet. So we were walking on the beach, and I made a joke. I said, "Gee, it would be really weird if while we're here, all of a sudden it became Russia." It was a joke.
Man, okay. That's scary. Okay.
And the next year it happened, right? So anyway, so I was raised in New York my first 8 years, and then my family moved to Miami Beach.
Oh, okay.
And so I lived there for the next 10 years. And then I left and I went up north for college. But I never heard jazz until my senior year in high school.
Wow. Okay.
So I started playing when I was very young, but then I took lessons in New York. But when we moved, then I never had more lessons after that. But I played in the band all the way through high school. I played trombone. So
Wow.
and I played farfisa organ. I played rock and roll. Right. So you know, and I loved it. I mean, but it didn't capture me until I heard jazz. Then
What was it that you heard first and that kind of intrigued you?
I heard a few things. I know I heard Mose Allison,
Mm.
and I know I heard probably Bill Evans and Coltrane and Miles. I probably heard that. I remember, but I was a senior in high school, and I remember being like, my mind like was freaked out. Like I couldn't, I didn't, it was so powerful that I didn't even understand how powerful it was, because, you know, it was like being confronted by all the beauty and truth that you never saw, and then all of a sudden there it was. You know, I didn't know that's what it was then, but it was profound. So when I went away to college the next year, I didn't have any particular goal in mind. I just was supposed to go to college, so I went. But then it was during the Vietnam War. It was 1969, 19. That was my first year in college. And I was protesting the war, and people were being drafted, and it was crazy, you know, and drugs were everywhere. So I spent my first 2 years in college not really doing anything. Just really, all I did was I spent a lot of time in the practice room, and I was listening to a lot of jazz. I didn't know what it was, but I couldn't stop, you know. So when I turned 20, I had like this revelation, like, what am I gonna do with my life? I'm 20. I'm not a baby anymore, right? Like, gee, I'm not a baby. I'm not a child. I'm 20. You know, somehow that, for me, that was like a turning point. I don't know why, but it was. So I decided I was going to drop out of college, and I was going to just study jazz.
Wow. Did you then go to New York immediately, or?
No, I went back home to Miami Beach, and I went to, I took jazz courses at a junior college. And I was there for 1 year, and then I went to another university in Miami, and I took another year of music courses. I wasn't majoring in music. I was at the time they had this liberal arts major. So basically I could take whatever I wanted, and if I got enough credits, then I would graduate. So that's what I did. I took all these music classes, and that's when I started writing.
Wow.
So at this university, and so I graduated from there, and then I went to Woodstock in 1975 to the Creative Music Studio.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. That was amazing, right? Probably.
That was amazing,
Yeah.
like in another way, because I was all of a sudden I was around. Anthony Braxton was there, Dave Holland, Jack DeJohnette, Carl Berger. There were all these serious guys, and the students were serious too. Some of them were. I know James Emery was there.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of, and so, but I was only there for 2 months, and then I went back. What happened then? Oh yeah, then I went back to Florida, and I joined the worst band ever that ever existed. Okay, it had to be the worst. Like worst, it was so bad. So, and it was a cover band, right, with a guitar, keyboard, right, and singer, bass, and drums, right, and some really wacky guy had this band, and I joined it, and we we learned we learned some really stupid songs, and then we went on the road.
Wow. Okay.
Right, and everywhere we went, we got fired.
Oh my God.
And it was all Holiday Inns. Back then, there were these Holiday Inns. And every time we were supposed to play like a week, we got fired after the first night, right? So we kept going up north because the tour was supposed to go up north, and we kept getting fired. And finally, we ended up in Boston, and we got fired there immediately.
Oh
And then so my friend who I had met at the junior college and who had went to Creative Music Studio with me, his drummer named Art Lillard. He's a great drummer and he's a great writer. So he had, after Woodstock, he got hired in a band and was in New Hampshire.
Mm.
And so I was stuck in Boston. And so the band from hell, they took my equipment, and I don't know, they did something with it, and then I called them up and I said, well, here I am, I'm in Boston, and I don't know what I'm gonna do, so here I am. I don't have any money, so I can't go back to Miami. And so he said, well, you can come to New Hampshire and hang out. So I went to New Hampshire and I hung out there, and then he and I moved to Boston.
Okay.
So then I was in Boston, and so then I went to Berkeley for 1 year.
Okay.
From 1977 to 1978. And during that time, we had a band, and I was writing a lot of music. So I had started to write a lot of music. And I still have old tapes of that, which which I wanna preserve.
Yeah, digitalized, or yeah.
Well, we played, there were a lot of great players there. I used to hang out, and the Fringe was playing there, I mean,
Sure.
all the way back then. And then I played with this great sax player named Stan Strickland in Boston.
Really? Yeah. Wow. Okay.
yeah, I was in his band, and there were a bunch of players, you know, and so I was really writing a lot. That was my first really major experience of writing and hearing it, writing and hearing it, you know, and recording and hearing it. And then from there, I went, you really want to hear all this? This stuff is so crazy.
No, no, come on, I love it. It's such a cool. I mean, it's such a road trip actually you had. Like,
So, 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 so I got offered to. So I only went to Berkeley for a year because I felt like the courses weren't. They were a little too elementary for where I was at. It was probably a mistake. I mean, I should have stayed, but anyway, I probably didn't want to be in school, you know, so. But it was great. I went there for a year, and then I got then we had this band we were playing, and then I got offered to go on tour with this famous band called the Platters, which was a Black American vocal
yeah, they had like
band.
so many hits, right? Like really.
Yeah, they had all these hits.
Yeah.
And so, so I said, okay, yeah, you know, why not? You know, I'll make some money. I could do that. So, but I made a mistake, and this is just when synthesizers were starting,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a choice. I could have bought this thing called a string machine because they just wanted me to play string sounds in the background. But I didn't do that. Instead, I was at the store and the guy said, well, if you buy this thing, you can make strings, but you can make your own sounds. You can do whatever. I said, oh, yeah, that sounds pretty cool. So I'll do that instead, right? So he didn't explain that you had to like study like how synthesis worked, and it wasn't so easy, right? So I got into band, and I had, when I left the store, I had a string sound, but after the first week of the tour, I didn't have a string sound anymore, and I didn't know how to get one. So I was playing string parts that sounded like the Twilight Zone, right? I was like, you can't even imagine, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, I like these old black guys were looking at me like that's crazy. Like, what is he doing? You know, like there was nothing I could do because I couldn't make a string sound. So I got fired like right away, right away. So I think we were in Florida. So then I was back in Florida, but that didn't last long. And then I went. I had a girlfriend from Boston, so she was in New York. So I went to New York, 1980.
What a trip! Wow.
So that was how I finally ended up in New York,
New York,
since I was born there, right? But
yeah,
it was very circular way
crazy.
of, and I didn't really even know why I was in New York. I mean, I just had a girlfriend there, and so I went.
Yeah.
And then that was how it started. And
who were the first people
you know,
you connected with, like playing jazz? I mean, in New York.
yeah, well, you know, Mark Whitecage,
Yeah.
and I had a friend from Miami who was there named Ben Brown. He's a bass player. He's still around. He's a great player. and I had at that time there were a lot of jam sessions, and but they weren't like jam sessions now. They're I don't know. It was more serious somehow,
Mm.
and you know, so I was meeting all these musicians, and I met these guys from Louisville. I used to play a lot with John Goldsby,
Mm-hmm.
who's now he's in the WDR radio orchestra. He's been there for 30 years. And Tim Whalen, saxophone player, and there were a lot of players, and Tim Horner, I was playing with him much early on, and there were a lot of players. So I started another band. You know, I had projects. I had 3-horn band, and I recorded that, and that was just released. Yeah, because Art moved to New York about the same time as me, a little later, and then we started doing some bands, and those early recordings were just released. So and then I met Joe Fonda.
Yeah.
Through Mark Whitecage and through Art Lillard, and then Mark had this band called Liquid Time. We put out one record, but we did a lot of playing for quite a few years, and you know, I got to play with all these guys, Jerry Hemingway, and there was a drummer named Peter Lamette who died from a motorcycle accident. He was the first drummer, and then Mike Serin was the drummer with Liquid Time, and we did some gigs. We did some gigs. Jean Lee was a singer. She did something with us. I mean, that was great. And during that period of time, I started running a jam session through some Russian drummer. Misha, I think his name was Misha. He was my piano tuner, but he was a drummer, and somehow he hired me at 7th Avenue South to do this jam session on Sunday. And all these cats, they used to come in and play. And one day, this young guy came in, a trumpet player. His name was Dave Douglas. So he came in. Nobody knew who he was. He just came in. And normally people would wait until they were, you know, invited to play. But he just walked right up on the bandstand and started playing.
Wow.
And that was Dave, you know. So then we started playing with Dave, and
that's how the mosaic happened, right? Then afterwards.
Well, that's kind of how it happened, because we met Mark Feldman also, and then I think somehow it was me and Joe and Dave and Mark, and then Joe knew Michael Rabinowitz. So then we looked for a drummer. That was the hardest thing, and finally we got Harvey, and then eventually, well, let's see, how does the story go? Well, eventually, so the band became really famous in New York for 2 years, and it was a great band.
Yeah,
And
man,
then,
it's an incredible band, yeah.
and then on the way to our last recording, Dave turned to me in the car and said that he's leaving the band. This is on the way to the recording. So I was in shock. Oh, and then he left the band. So then Joe and I wanted to continue the music, and we decided to start another band. Joe at the time was playing with Anthony Braxton, so he had some European connections, and also I knew quite a few people at the time who were from Europe, like Peter Herbert,
yeah,
a great bassist and composer. We were playing at that time, so we got a list of venues that we could try to contact, and we got Herb Robertson,
yeah,
on trumpet, and we kept Mark, and we got Harvey on drums. So it was like the Mosaic Sextet trio plus this new thing with Herbie and Mark, and that was the first formation. And then we had like a month tour.
Wow, man.
And after that tour, Mark quit the band. It was like too much, you know.
Yeah.
He didn't want to do it like that. Actually, we didn't either, but we didn't know that, you know. We were just excited, you know. So then but it ended up being the right decision, because we couldn't have afforded a quintet, but we could afford the quartet. Eventually we started to make money. We lost money for the first several years, but then we made enough money to pay everybody, and so that was the beginning and the end of the Mosaic, and the beginning of the Fonda Stevens group.
Yeah, that was a great band. Yeah, all these grand bands, I mean, that's fantastic music. Yeah.
Well, my longest musical relationships now are with Joe, which that's like 40 years.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah.
And then with Art Lillard, we stopped playing together in the 80s, but during COVID we started to talk again, and then that became, oh, we have these recordings that we never released, so we should release them. So we did that, and then that became, well, maybe we should record live. So he actually came to Asheville last year, and we recorded some music for Three Horns. But that's not, I didn't release that yet, because I'm hoping to make a tour. If I can make a tour, then I'll release it, you know.
Yeah.
So those are the two longest musical relationships I have. But Joe has been, you know, it's such a profound relationship.
Yeah,
know,
incredible. You too.
So much great music, and you know, it's hard to explain that, really, you know, why we don't hate each other, but we
yeah, it's
I mean, it's like a it's like a marriage.
Yeah, sure. Yep.
You know, I mean, you know, I mean, you know everything about the person. There's nothing, you know, but we complemented each other really well because he's very outgoing. He's a very, very extremely friendly human being, you know, but honestly, that's just who he is. He just loves people. And I'm, you know, I'm more reserved, and I'm also, I'm able to do, I'm like a math person, so I'm able to do details.
Yeah.
Whereas for Joe, that's not his strong suit. His strong suit is being who he is, and, you know,
complemented each other well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so that's kind of, I don't even know what your question was, but
No, it's good. Nice to hear you talk. So.
but you know, and then yes, so you know, so the mosaic was great. We were together almost 3 years, and was, what was so exciting about it was that, you know, we were playing all this original music, and we rehearsing every week, and Dave would come in with like 5 new charts every week.
Yeah.
And, you know, so that means in order for me to keep my music in the band, I have to keep writing, right? So, you know, so I could add one new chart a week for his 5. So, you know, it was very, what's the word? You know, it's inspiring. It was inspiring. I mean, just to be around those guys, you know.
Definitely.
I mean, also Mark Feldman is unbelievable.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, Mark just practiced all the time. He didn't do anything else. Like, and we were all neighbors. Like, we all were living in the same area, like within a block from each other. So, you know, it was like there was like a Brooklyn thing happening at that time, you know. Herbie lived there, Dave lived there, Mark lived there, Mark Dresser lived there. I mean, it goes on and on. There was all these cats, and you'd see them all the time, you know. So that was sort of like a special time, I think. And you know, I mean, when somebody's writing that much, you know, it inspires you to write.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
And so Joe started writing, and Michael Rabinowitz started doing some writing. I don't think Harvey ever wrote anything for the band, but and so that was great. And also, you know, it was strings, brass, and woodwinds.
Yeah.
So it was a kind of an orchestral, you know, it was a learning process. I mean, then after that, then we continued that, and we started working in Europe a lot, and then at some point, and also Phil Haynes, he lived down the street, and I was hanging out with Phil, and one day Phil said, I know this German sax player, he's trying to do what you guys are trying to do. I think you guys would like each other. So Gebhard.
That's how you connected with Gebhard. Okay, yeah, I wanted to ask you that.
Yes, through Phil Haynes. And then Gebhard was living in the neighborhood. He had moved also to Brooklyn, same neighborhood. And he was living in maybe in Herbie's apartment, because Herbie had gotten married and was living in Germany. That didn't last too long. But anyway, so Gebhard, he comes over to my house, and I just have, you know, I had drums there, and I had my grand piano and the amps, and I was always rehearsing.
Yeah.
And he came in, and so we just sat down and played, and then we said, yeah, I think we should start a band. And I said, well, why don't we, I mean, my friend Joe could be in the band. So then we had Joe, and then first drummer was Matt Wilson.
Really? Oh yeah. Oh.
Yeah, so we went on tour with Matt Wilson, but Matt Wilson, during our tour, his wife had triplets. So so when he came back, he said, well,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to play in your band anymore because there's not enough money. I got these triplets and I have to make more money. So then the next tour was with Han Benek.
Oh man, how was that like with Han?
That was an experience.
The crazy Dutch man.
That was an experience that I never had before. So the great thing about Han, there are a bunch of great things about Han, but the one thing that was really kind of strange was that every concert had to start with a drum solo.
Wow. Okay.
So before we got to play our music, which was all original music, before he would get on the stage and he would start playing. It was, and you couldn't stop him. That was what he was going to do. So we learned that immediately from the first concert that, okay, he's going to play a drum solo in the beginning. And then after that, then we can play our music. And so that's what happened, and so he was great. I mean, he was so positive.
Oh, he's a great drummer.
One time we were on a train. We were going from Austria to Poland, and when we got to the border, the police came on, the Polish police. They went through the train, and I was sitting with Han, and he was smoking a joint. He was getting high in the train while the police were in the train. So I said, Han, aren't you worried about this? He said, no, I'm from Amsterdam. We don't worry about it. And sure enough, nothing happened. It was like so strange. Like it was like you couldn't comprehend how his karma, just everything was okay, like no matter what he did, it was so we had Han, and we released a record, one of the live concerts there with Han. That was and then the next drummer was Jerry Hemingway, and we did a tour with Jerry, and we released a live record with Jerry from the Outpost. I think that was in New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And then we finally got George Schuler, and he stayed with the band all the way until COVID, really, till before COVID. We eventually we parted ways, but he was in the band for over 10 years.
Mm.
And then I had a friend in Switzerland named Dieter Ulrich, who's a great drummer, and we wanted to change the direction. So our last tour that I did with Conference Call was with Dieter, and our last record was with Dieter, and then COVID came, and that was sort of the end of that band.
Yeah, it was a killing group. I mean, throughout. I love always
Yeah,
that band went like from, composed to improvised stuff. Like I really like that about conference call. That was a
yeah,
nice,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It was a great experience. I mean, I have no regrets about any of it. I feel lucky. You know,
Yep.
I always try to feel, like just the fact that I've been able to play music my whole life, and really my music. I mean, original
Yeah,
music.
that's a privilege. Yeah.
It's
Yep.
just, it's a great thing. I mean, it was never about money. Never has been about money. It can't be about money. If you think it's about money, then you're in the wrong world.
Yep. True. True.
So the first tours that Joe and I did, we lost a lot of money. This,
Yeah. Amazing, man. Well, but speaking of touring, do you have plans? I mean,
yeah, we
coming
have,
to Europe
well,
in a near future, or
in
what are your
October.
plans?
I'm coming
Oh,
back in October
fantastic.
with the Eastern Boundary Quartet. I don't know if you know that
That's with
band.
the Hungarian musicians, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. I know them. Yeah.
yeah,
Fantastic.
So we did a tour in America a couple of months ago, October. It was great. It was great.
Fantastic.
It was so great. It was, because I hadn't done anything for 3-4
Oh man,
years,
yeah, sure.
and it was great. And so we're gonna go to Europe in October, and
Fantastic.
yeah, and I'm hoping that I can start to go back once a year. I mean, all my career really is in Europe. I mean,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
it's when I was in New York, there was more happening, but I'm glad I'm not in New York.
Yeah. I mean,
We started the tour in New York, and I went to the corner store to buy milk and cereal, right? Because we were staying for 2 nights rehearsing, and it was $17 for a for a bottle of milk and a box of
yeah,
cereal, and I was like, wait, are you sure? How could it be this much money? Then the next day we rehearsed and we went out for slices. Slices were $6 each.
oh, yeah,
I mean, when I lived there, the slices were $1. Then they were $2. Then I think they went up to $3, but $6.
yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. Hey, it's changed. It has changed a lot. Yeah.
I mean, have you spent much time in New York?
Yeah. I mean, pre-COVID, I went like every year for a month or
Yeah.
to play music and record, or but after COVID, now I'm like, I don't even have the desire, just because all the gigs, like you say, are in Europe where I live, and
Yeah, it's true.
it's, I don't know, it's
Well, after 9/11, everything changed.
also, yeah,
I mean, that's for sure. I mean,
yeah,
that's really for sure. I mean, we were on the road with conference call during 9/11, and when I got back, I could smell the burnt bodies from my apartment in Brooklyn for
crazy, yeah,
months.
yeah,
Now, that's not something that you want to smell.
sure, yeah, it's crazy,
Well, I mean,
yeah,
maybe
yeah,
there are some people that want to smell it, but not me.
sure,
I don't. And things changed after that, you know, it's more too expensive now and
Yeah.
crowded.
Yeah. True.
So, yeah, so you know, so yes, so this new record, I'm quite happy with it. I mean, I wish more people could get to hear it, but
Yeah.
but
I'm looking forward
I
to the
think
new stuff as well. I mean, the one you said that you might release, so that'll be nice with the 3 horns.
yeah, that was really fun, and also the music is hard. You know, I'm writing longer pieces.
Yeah.
You know, everything's expanding. You know.
That's good.
Yeah, and so the big
yeah.
band is, you know, it's fun to write now for the big band. It's a lot easier. When I first did it, it was really hard.
Yeah, of course. I mean, yeah, can imagine.
You
But
know.
beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's an amazing thing, you know, the big band. And you know, when I had the big band in New York, one of the guys, he played oboe, so I could write for oboe. That was really
I love the oboe,
fantastic.
man. Yeah.
I love the oboe and I love the French horn. I mean, like those sounds and the cello, you know, like these sounds, you know. So that's my story.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
So interesting.
Oh, come on, man. It was so much fun to hear you talk about this. Really, such a wild ride. Crazy. I mean, I have so many CDs of you, like, so it's nice. I always love doing these talks just to complement everything together and hear it, you know. Then when I put on a record, it's like it kind of makes even more sense, you know. Like I'm like, oh shit, man, that's what you talked about, or that's nice to hear always. So.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, those were the major bands. I mean, there was a trio with Steven Siegel and Ferguson, and that was like my jazz band, you know. We just played standards and some originals. And it's funny because that's really what I practice still.
Really interesting.
Yeah, like I still, because you know, like I was never that interested in bebop when I was in New York for some reason. I can't tell you why, except that maybe it felt, I don't know, I didn't find it really beautiful at the time. But now I do. So you know, so now, you know, I'm gonna be 73 years old, and now I'm studying that, you know.
That's quite cool.
Studying that, and I'm also studying, I'm just like working on these tunes and transposing them different keys and just trying to understand them more. You know, I'm finding it really interesting, you know. So that's what I practice mostly. Or I sit down, I read Bach.
Yeah, sure. That's always,
you know, I mean, I've become like a Bach freak. It's like, you know, it's like I don't understand how there could be somebody named Bach who did what he did. Like it doesn't seem like anybody could do that. Like, how could you do that? You know, like just pour out of you so perfectly. You know, it's like
amazing. Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's crazy, man. That's like, it's just crazy. It just, and it's funny because I was watching an interview yesterday with Brad Meldau. He was talking also about Bach.
Yeah.
So he said when he was when he was playing with Pat Metheny, one time Pat turned to him and said, you know, compared to Bach, like we can't even play. It's like we don't know anything.
Mm. Interesting, yeah.
And, you know, it's true. I mean, in a way, it's true. I mean, it's like, and what was that, 500 years ago? I mean, I don't know, 400 years.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. Like,
It's crazy. Yeah, it is crazy. Yeah.
it's crazy. You know, I took some lessons with Roland Hanna,
Mm.
and I asked him, I said, Roland, can you explain like this bebop music to me? Because I don't get it, you know. And all he said was study Bach.
Mm. Yep. Yep.
And I had no idea what that meant then. You understand?
Yep.
Now I understand, but that was like 30 years ago. I was like, what? Study, you know, like, can't you like give me something else, you know, like a little more information?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That makes sense.
No?
Yeah. It makes sense, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yes. So anyway, that's, you know, when I get the time to sit down and practice, that's sort of, I'm just trying to understand the nuts and bolts,
Yeah.
you know, of what this is all about, you know.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Beautiful, man. Yeah. Michael, I will not keep you much longer. I mean, but if you're going to be in Europe in October, near Slovenia, drop me a line. Let's get together and
Well, I'm
continue.
going to be, I'm pretty sure
If you're in
I'm
Austria
going
or
to be
something.
in Austria, I
Oh,
think.
super. Let me know, please. And
Yeah, I'll let you know.
and
Yeah,
if
we
you're in,
definitely meet up.
yeah, we can meet for a beer or wine. And if you're in Graz, I'm like half an hour away from Graz, so would love to meet you.
Yeah, well, I'll be in Graz.
Oh man, oh then I'm coming.
Okay, cool.
Just let me know
Yeah.
when, and
Okay,
or
cool.
probably Stockwerk. Yeah, you're gonna play Stockwerk maybe.
Yeah. I'm gonna play there.
Super.
Yeah, I know a lot more from the beginning of our touring.
Yeah, I played there many times. Yeah, it's a nice venue. Well,
Yeah.
super. Well, then we'll meet each other in October and
Good.
super, man.
Yeah, well, when you have this online, let me know.
I will. I'll send you a link and everything. So
share it with people, and
yeah,
they can find out a little bit more about me if they want to.
Oh, come on, beautiful. Thanks so much again for taking the time and sharing your story. So
thank you for inviting me, man.
Yeah.
Dr. Jazz.